the wake of Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon's mismanagement of the Vietnam War and Nixon's dealing in Watergate, an air of arrogance and distrust had come to be associated with the White House. Gerald Ford worked hard to restore credibility to the presidency, but his pardon of Nixon eviscerated much of his clout and political capital. Thus, Jimmy Carter represented in many ways the first president with a clean slate and a chance to restore the faith of Americans in their chief executive. Add to this the caricature of the imperial presidency. It extended well beyond warfare, well beyond spying. The imperial presidency also implies a unique yet extravagant lifestyle and a sense of luxury, such as Nixon's choice to change the dress of the White House guards. In the early 1970s, the dress of these agents, proving too plain for Nixon, were changed to what, in the words of one historian, was called, they looked like they might have been borrowed from the Vatican or some 16th century French palace. Inspired by European royal guards, these uniforms included gold-trimmed tunics and peaked hats. To counter this, part of Jimmy Carter's larger campaign platform of austerity and honesty involved eliminating some of the trappings of office. Reflecting on his vision, Carter later noted, quote, "Although we altered little in the White House itself, I wanted to make some basic changes in how a president lived and governed. In addition to the gesture of walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, I tried in many other ways to convince the people that barriers between them and top officials in Washington were being broken down. A simpler lifestyle, more frugality, less ostentation, more accessibility to the press, all these suited the way I lived." After a barrage of presidents who believed they could fiat their prerogative and abuse their office, Carter made deliberate moves to be different. Some gestures were symbolic, as much as they were political, such as serving only beer and wine at the White House, or perhaps dispensing with playing of the Hail to the Chief. Ford tried this also, but I don't have time to get into this here. Carter's intentions proved impractical, though, and sometimes even problematic. Some of his gestures were lost in scandal or simply met with public opposition. For better or for worse, the selling of the presidential yacht Sequoia was one of the more prominent and publicized measures undertaken by Carter. Following his campaign promises to subdue the trappings of the imperial presidency, Jimmy Carter considered retirement options for the Sequoia before the Electoral College had finished counting the votes. Rumor had it that the initial decision to sell the boat stemmed from a Roger Mudd television expose calling for a, quote, crackdown on White House purposes. The next day, Jimmy Carter cited the Mudd report and told Special Assistant to the President, Hugh Carter, better known to his colleagues as Cousin Sheep, to investigate the selling of the Sequoia. Intent to dispel the arrogant image of the office and unaware of the political value of the White House purchases, Carter moved quickly to sell what he saw as an unnecessary luxury. Now, as an aside, the history of presidential yachts dates back to Rutherford B. Hayes, although presidents since Abraham Lincoln have been using boats for recreation and escape. Hayes acquired the U.S.S. Dispatch in 1880, making him the first president to have an official yacht. Presidents between Hayes and Carter had 10 boats, serving off and on at the pleasure of the sitting chief executive. The last in the line of boats was the Sequoia. Built in 1924, it had served off and on as the presidential yacht since 1933. Hugh Carter conveyed this information to his cousin and described to Jimmy Carter the options, the pros and cons of each, and the possible follow-up that would ensue, reminding his cousin that presidential yachts date back to 1865, and should Carter dispose of the Sequoia, it might impede future presidents from replacing the yacht. This is okay to Carter because he didn't think presidents should have yachts in the first place, and ultimately, Hugh Carter concluded that, quote, the Sequoia itself does not serve a function that is necessary for the well-being and security of the nation, end quote. He reduced the dilemma to the diet of austerity versus tradition. Focusing on the details of his larger political agenda, both Carters overlooked, or at least underestimated, some of the political implications of the boat sale. The president and his assistant ignored the political capital the yacht created. Bringing members of Congress on a presidential yacht was one of the unwritten ways to grease the skids inside the Beltway. To President Carter, the symbolism of the gesture took priority over any adverse political implications, and they were just bumps in the road to his austere vision of the White House. Pursuant to Hugh Carter's recommendations, Jimmy Carter told Secretary of Defense Harold Brown to, quote, please deactivate the Sequoia and have it disposed of in public sale. Despite his distinguished career, I feel that the presidential yacht Sequoia is no longer needed. Quote. Now, amidst an otherwise benign bidding process, not counting the antics or the bids from hustler publisher Larry Flint or daredevil Evel Knievel, Jimmy Carter nearly lost a valuable ally in Congress over a prospective bidder. On April 26, 1977, a frustrated Representative John W. Jeanette, Democrat of South Carolina, wrote the White House congressional liaison, Frank Moore, Excuse me. The letter referred to a personal friend of Jeanrette's interested in bidding on the Sequoia, who was discouraged because he was told tours were restricted. The logic was given to prevent non-serious bidders from bilking free tours of the boat, and Jeanrette assured Moore that the client was a serious bidder. Be that as may, page 2 of Jeanrette's letter reveals his true and ulterior motive. Jeanrette told his constituent that a tour would not be possible. Rather than leave it there, the constituent then went to Strom Thurmond, senator and a Republican from South Carolina, and had the tour arranged. Besmirched, Jeanrette reminded Moore that he had been an early supporter of Carter, and he encouraged the administration to look into what he considered a snub. Now, for a president who campaigned on and pledged to restore communication between the president and Congress and trust in its leaders, these accusations are particularly threatening. Especially, add to this the fact that the party affiliations of Jeanrette and Thurmond means this story would not get lost in just party politics. The issue would not go away. Carter's ignorance of Washington politics and his aversion to learning the insider game impeded his message from coming through strongly. Unable to accommodate a political favor for a fellow Democrat, Carter's attempt to rise above the politics and the political fray backfired. In an effort to appear as a president who would not get sucked into backdoor politics, Carter damaged the spirit of cooperation as he presented his alternative.